Hello, you all, and welcome. What is thought? What are its deeper insights? Thought or imagination is the focusing of consciousness upon anything other than itself. An apparent activity of consciousness that separates reality into two entities, a subject and an object, for the sake of experience, or to experience love knowingly, or to experience the magnificence of itself, is called thought. That's the reason why thoughts arise, for the consciousness to experience its own magnificence. Consciousness, apparently limited, apparently in movement, is thought. Thought is known as vritti in Sanskrit, meaning whirlpool, a disturbance in the medium of consciousness. So, thought equals consciousness plus object. If there is no object, there is no thought. Since consciousness or truth is not an object, thought, in other words, is the art of concealing the truth. Desire is the impulse for self-love. When self-love or consciousness, which is not a thought, seems to forsake its own real nature of mere being and springs towards objects in the form of desires to experience the world knowingly, it becomes a thought. A first thought of I am this body. Because in order to attend to a finite object, you must first imagine yourself as a finite subject. Consciousness cannot know a finite object directly because consciousness is infinite. This is very much similar to your personal night dream, where you identify yourself with a character body inside of that night dream. However, I am this body is a false thought. The true I, which is consciousness or peace, is falsely identified with an insentient body in ignorance. The mixture of infinite sentient consciousness and a finite insentient body is like a knot formed by two ropes. The knot is insubstantial. But because this false thought of a body is taken as true under ignorance, it is possible for other thoughts to arise. And that's what exactly happens. This false first thought is the ego, the thinker. The ego or the thinker or ahamkara is what seems to perceive the other thoughts, and by perceiving them, it apparently creates them at the same time. Thoughts arise because of a thinker. That is how. And what is mind? Mind is nothing but thoughts. If individuals are thoughts, then the concept of crowd is called mind. Remember, thought mind and object matter rise and sink together and are dependent on each other and hence illusory, like a knot formed by two ropes. Being and knowing are one, being knowing. Without being, we cannot know, and without knowing, we cannot be. Thought, ego, apparently separates reality into two entities, one as subject and the other as object, and thinks that the subject is knowing from inside the body and the object is independently existing outside the body at a distance. This creates illusion as the present everywhere of eternity and infinity is split into the past and the future in time and here and there in space. Thought thus manifests life as we know it. Thoughts are of two types, voluntary thoughts and involuntary thoughts. Voluntary thoughts are deliberate, created newly by you. Involuntary thoughts are based on your impressions, called vasanas or tendencies or hidden desires. They arrive on their own from your causal body, your seed body. Choose to stay. Decide whether they should allow you to do what you intend to do. Vasanas are past thoughts or impressions registered in the causal plane called chittam in Sanskrit. These vasanas alone come in the form of involuntary thoughts. Learning to control or handle involuntary thoughts is very important for a person in the pursuit of truth. The best way to handle the involuntary thoughts is to watch them, witness them. They will disappear on their own. The trouble here is that it is almost impossible for you to figure out which are the voluntary thoughts and which are the involuntary thoughts. A thought basically operates in three modes. 1. Purity, sattva. 2. Passion or rajas in Sanskrit. And 3. Dullness or tamas. And also in combination of these three modes as 5 moods or fluctuations. These 3 modes are also called as ropes or qualities or gunas. There is ignorance in all these modes and all these moods. Sattva means the closest thing to Sat, which is pure knowledge, and has the thinnest veil of ignorance than any other. The 5 moods are 1. Dull, mudha. 2. Scattered brain, called kshipta. 3. Partially focused, called vikshipta. 4. One-pointed, ekagra. And 5. Fully arrested in concentration, called nirodha. These 5 moods are in varying degrees of purity, sattva. The first one, dull, being the farthest away from purity or sattva. A thought exists in 5 states. 1. Waking, where body is active, mind is active. 2. The dream, where body is inactive and mind is active. 3. Deep sleep, where body is inactive, mind is also inactive. 4. Superconscious or meditative, where body is active but the mind is inactive. It is in stillness or no mind state. And 5. Enlightened, which is a non-mind or I am that, irrespective of any of the previous 4 states one is in. Supra-consciousness is a pure state of pure awareness, which is not really a state. It is a stateless state, unmanifested, consciousness at rest. So you can never get away from thought as long as you are in a body, whether a gross body or a subtle body or a causal body. No mind state or deep sleep state is still endowed with thought, a subtle thought, because thoughts are dormant or hiding in a seed form. Thoughts may also be classified in 4 different ways as 1. Impulsive or instinctive. 2. Mechanical or reactive. Conscious thoughts but uncontrollable because they are produced by the binding desires or binding vasanas. 3. Deliberative or creative. Deliberate or creative. Thoughts subjected to discrimination that are accepted or dismissed with reference to one's own value structure. 4. Spontaneous. Thoughts that automatically conform to universal values. This kind of thinking applies only to those for whom self-knowledge has destroyed binding desires or binding vasanas and thus negated personal doership. So then, what is the reality of a thought? Thought rises in consciousness, rests in consciousness, sets into consciousness, made out of consciousness, and finally known by consciousness. Therefore, thought ultimately is nothing other than consciousness. In conclusion, thought can be thought as an expression or play of consciousness to know and experience something seemingly other than itself. Thank you.